Hey everyone, this is MrAddOil again, helping you fight your today for your better tomorrow. And in this video, we're going to be talking about alternative careers that you can consider taking your coding skills to. Context time. So the landscape for San Francisco Bay Area in terms of becoming a software developer, it's a very competitive landscape. So if you're in this area, I'm basically speaking out for this area. If you're outside of San Francisco Bay Area, your chances of becoming a software developer are much higher. But I'm going to speak of it from the context of being in this, basically the tech hub of the world, right? San Francisco Bay Area. It's super hard to find, even for experienced software developers, to land software developer roles in San Francisco. Like, the bar is just much higher here. So that's why we're talking about this subject, right? In the event that, you cannot find a software developer role, you're running out of money, there's a huge gap in your resume, in your work history, what are you going to do? So we're going to be talking about that coming up. So I want to address one thing before we start. Am I a sellout if I don't become a software developer? Let's say I spent like 1-2 years. For me, I spent like 2 years trying to prep up and learn these like software developer skills, right? Am I a sellout if I don't become a software developer? Well, the short answer is no, right? The way I would respond to this is, dude, it's life. Like, you don't always get what you want. But you have the choice, and the decision that you can do is, smile at the opportunities that you were given and do well on that. So this is why we're going to be talking about other type of careers that you can take your coding skills to and thrive there. So I'm going to be talking about the roles that I've applied for, alternative roles that were not software engineer roles or required 9-to-5 coding as what you do for the big portion of your work, right? So first we'll be tackling the customer facing roles that you can get with your coding skills that you built up when you're trying to pursue this path of becoming a software engineer. So the first one I list out, they're not in any specific order, but the first one will be a developer advocate, right? And I'll be trying to break down these roles in type of skill sets that you need, the job responsibility, what it is, and compensation, right? Like, what's the salary and stuff like that. So a quick overview of what a developer advocate is basically you are the representative for your company to advocate for other developers to code and use your platform and develop on that. And the skill sets that you need would be coding. You will need to know basically what you're pitching, right? Like, you need to understand, you won't necessarily be coding, right? That's the whole point of this video, but you need to understand your company, the company that you're advocating for, the product, that code base, and how other developers will develop on that. Second, you will need some sort of customer facing experience. That could be support, that could be sales. And lastly, what you need to be good at is working with other people, or like cross collaboration skills. That means managing expectations with different departments when trying to accomplish a given goal or trying to complete a given task. In terms of job responsibilities, like the metrics that I would assume will be associated with this role will be the number of developers that you can evangelize like per quarter. And basically, they're kind of like a customer success manager on the new business side of finding developers to use your platform. So they're in charge of, they're basically in charge of the whole cycle, I would assume, of like getting new developers to use the platform. This could mean going to conferences, manning the social media aspect or channels for developers, and then increasing the numbers of people developing on the platform, the people that come back and use it more, and the expansion of it. And I was quite surprised. In terms of salary, they get paid pretty well, at least in the San Francisco Bay Area. So the average would be on Glassdoor, that's where I'm getting all of my sources from, will be around $136,000. So that's pretty cool. And next up, we have the sales engineer or solutions consultant, but we'll just use sales engineer because I think that's the most applicable title for this role. So what you'll be doing is you're in charge of the pre-sales technical aspects of the sales cycle. So you'll be partnering with, on most occasions, the new business teams. That will be like your SDRs, account executives, and sometimes like even account managers if they're, I mean, that's really rare. I'll just eliminate it and just like strip it down to SDRs and primarily account executives. So you'll be helping them close deals by doing the technical demo portions, building proof of concepts. And in some cases, like if, you know, your role is also to help close like a pilot before the client actually buys the whole solution, then it's helping them implement the pilot solution also. So for this role, the type of skill sets that you need will be coding, some sort of knowledge in, I mean, for the roles that I've seen, like it could be web development, like you need to know your basic like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, some sort of SQL language, some sort of data querying language, that's helpful. In terms of other skill sets, you need to have some sort of customer facing skills here, right? That means coming from a sales background, support, something like that. And then the data, I guess like analytics part of this role would be understanding, you know, how to use SQL, querying databases and making sense of like large data sets and like putting that into your like proof of concept for clients. You will also need to know how to work with cross-functional teams. That means managing the expectations and facilitating all the deliverables needed from different departments and feeding that back to the team that you're supporting and ultimately the customer. And lastly, because you're part of like the new business section of the sales cycle, you'll have to be interfacing with like executives. So since you're in a more technical role, you'll be interfacing with like technical stakeholders. Like that could be chief product officers, VP of engineering, and you'll help the sales team basically pitch these technical stakeholders into using your product. And in terms of compensation, their average will be around 120 per year, which is pretty cool. And lastly, I want to talk about the technical customer success manager, or in certain scenarios or certain companies will call them technical account managers. So they're basically in charge of the post-sales part of a sales cycle. So the account executive team, like who are in charge of new business, sales engineers, they close them on the pre-sale, the new business side. They get handed over as a converted customer, and a customer success manager will be in charge of the implementations of their solution, right? Helping them get onboarded, helping with all of the post-sales aspect of the sales cycle. So on the technical prefix of a technical customer success manager, you're basically involved with technical enablement. So in certain platforms, you might be in charge of like building, I mean, kind of overlapping with like sales engineers, where you build proof of concepts for potential upsells, or you help use like SQL to query some sort of data for your customers, or you build some sort of UI from the component library that your company has for these customers or these book of accounts that you have. So for a technical customer success manager, you have to have several skill sets. So the first one will be coding, pretty similar to a sales engineer. Like you need to know your basic HTML, CSS, JavaScript, some sort of scripting language, yeah, like JavaScript. And then second, you need to have customer facing experience. That could be in sales, customer success, support. Third, you will need to know how to work in a cross-functional in cross-functional teams. So, I mean, right out of the gate, you need to know how to work with sales, right? They'll be handing you off converted customers. And then from there, you need to know how to communicate feature requests to the product team and engineering, and also trickle up your communication to like the executive team in your company and be like, oh, these are our top accounts. These are the pains that they're having. These are the solutions that they're requesting. And you also need some sort of product management skills, right? You need to understand when you're working with your accounts, like the user stories for those specific accounts, ideal customer profiles. You also need to know how to submit like feature requests and basically aggregate all of those like customer data into useful, actionable feedback for your product team. And then data analytics is also a big thing. And with most companies, SQL is probably the language of choice. So you need to also kind of know your SQL. And lastly, interacting with executive stakeholders. So when you're in charge of these book of accounts, let's say you're trying to upsell something or trying to handle a renewal negotiation. In these instances, it's very likely that you might be meeting not only your point of contact in that company, which will be like maybe like a manager level or like even an individual contributor, but in these higher stake negotiations, you might have to talk to executive sponsors, and then you have to know how to deal with them and understand how to navigate those conversations. And in terms of metrics, like this role usually revolves around the biggest metric that you'll be tasked will be renewals, right? And then the technical aspect will be on maybe converting the existing legacy customer base into using a newer technology that your engineering or product team has developed. So those would be the two type of metrics. And then another one will be like maybe upsells, where there will be a sales element to this role. In terms of compensation, when I looked at Glassdoor, the compensation will be around $103,000. So, I mean, it fluctuates. I think technical customer success managers, they also will get similar comps to like a sales engineer. So don't let that number fool you. Try your best to get what you're worth, right? And that's all I have for career alternatives to take your coding skills to. And then we talked about customer facing roles, right? We talked about being a developer advocate, being a sales engineer, and a technical customer success manager. And in the next video, we're going to be talking about non-customer facing roles that you can attempt to get at when you have coding skills.